All right, hello there, and welcome back to the There I Said It channel. And so, my name is Arizura Koroma, as usual, your host. And for today's video, I'm going to be addressing another current issue, current affair, something that's trending, and I'm going to relate it to a prominent issue that Nigerians have. And so, it's of our first lady, I think. Yeah, Remi Tinubu. She mentioned earlier about how she'd empowered people to, this is me paraphrasing the idea, everybody knows this, how she'd empowered people to sell akara, kulikuli, and corn in order to get the money that they need to, basically survive. But the thing is, let me give you a comparison. Let's do a brief comparison. Today, purchasing power is not at all what it used to be. Now, granted, anytime that the price of things increase, fuel increases, right? The price of things in markets increases. So these market women are still relatively somewhat somehow making their money, right? But the thing is, what happens is that there is a huge discrepancy between how the prices of things that are necessary for most Nigerians, like fuel, like housing costs, and the cost of houses, and the cost of medical medicine and healthcare. There's a huge difference between how those costs rise and how the cost of things in markets rises. And so, all right. So because of this huge gap in how things rise, it's very difficult to say that the kulikuli or akara business or corn business that could have sent people to school 3 years ago, or no, 10 years ago, will have the same purchasing power, will have the same financial and economic power to do those same things in today's world, right? So let's look at the minimum wage, for instance. The minimum wage is like 70K currently, but as see roughly around 10 years ago it was 30,000, maybe 30 something, I don't know the exact figure, but it was 30,000, and that 30,000 naira could get you more than 100 liters of fuel, right? But now you cannot use this 70K to buy up to 60 liters. Purchasing power, there's a huge difference. But for the focus of this video, what I want to focus on is the cost of healthcare and why most Nigerians prefer to self medicate. So, recently, a couple of months ago, I was at the hospital and I had this doctor scream to the hills about how we were self medicating and how that wasn't right, and that there needs to be proper consultations and proper tests done before we do this and we do that. But in a situation where the consultation fee in a particular hospital costs, say, 15K, that's consultation fee alone. And then the cost for pharmacy and all those bills may cost you up to. I'm going to say this from my. Okay, let me leave my experience because it may not be the same as other people's. Let's say it costs you around 20K, right? If you're earning 70K a month, right? You have to put some aside for savings for your rent. You have to put some things aside for your transport money for wherever you're going to work. You have to put some things aside for food. And then you have to put some things aside for emergency, like this hospital visit. After putting all those other things aside, and it's not many Nigerians that put for emergency, mind you. Most Nigerians live paycheck to paycheck. So it's what is coming in that month that they use to settle all their problems. So not many people have as much left over to handle these emergencies. So think about this. If you go to work every day, and granted you feel a certain way sometimes, malaria is one of the things that almost every Nigerian has, right? It just is not bad enough that you need to go to the hospital. But when it does happen, right? There are times when you can recognize these as the symptoms of malaria. Oh, the last time I went to a clinic, last time I went to a pharmacy, last time I did the test, these were the same symptoms I have. And so most Nigerians would prefer to simply, since I have these symptoms, they corresponded with the last, what do they call it? Corresponded with the last diagnosis I was given. So I would just go and buy malaria medicine and I'll self medicate. And so it's a very logical, reasonable, step by step path. But it is not the recommended path. And this is because the recommended path is simply too expensive for most people. And so even if you would see most old people these days, they are suffering from something chronic, but you don't know that it's chronic because they haven't gone to do any tests. But they have a headache, they had a slight fever, and these symptoms are similar to this particular illness, and so they go and treat this particular illness, not knowing that that symptom is for another disease entirely. That presents a huge problem, right? Because on one hand, you agree that yes, you do need the diagnosis for this particular issue. But if you consider the hospital bills, if you consider how much admittance might cost in case that illness requires admittance, sometimes 250 a bed at some hospitals, and that 250 does not include the medication they'll give you. It does not include the drip. It does not include like service charge, or I don't know if they do that. It doesn't include any of that, right? And usually that bill alone now can send you to newer heights, can send you to different heights, right? And so most Nigerians would not be able to experience that. And so going to a hospital going affair is something that happens once in a while, because we know that if we are going there, you're going to spend a lot of money, right? And I'm not talking, please, if you're rich, pause this video and go away. I'm not talking to you, right? Thank you. So when I look at the Nigerian economy, when I'm going to markets and I see many market women there selling things, and I see them talk about some kind of illnesses they have, I think ideally you should go to the hospital because they have the equipment, they have the knowledge. Modern medicine is a lot clearer now on how to diagnose and properly treat these illnesses. But it's not an easy option for most people, because these people now, they have people that they're supporting. In Nigerian society, we are the sort of society that we believe in the man should provide type of system. But still, you see many women having their own shops. You see many women doing their own small business on the side. Why? So it's not just because those women are doing it to be financially independent. No, it's to add to the family's expenses. It's to the family's money accounts, to add to it and deal with the expenses that they have. So it's why all these women are doing all these things. So it already tells you that, look, Nigerians are not so financially stable that they can randomly pick a hospital and be like, I'm gonna go get treated. I have an illness. It's probably something bad, and I'm like over 60, so I should go get diagnosed. Nobody is doing that. If they are doing it, it's a once in a while kind of thing where we say, all right, it's about time. My age is getting serious. My age is getting serious, and we need to handle this thing. We need to talk about this. And so they go to the hospital. That's the scenario in which this usually happens. So why do we self-medicate a lot? Because it is actually quite cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to self-medicate for most Nigerians. So you can't really sit on a high horse and badmouth people, most people that decide to self-medicate when there was something else that was actually killing them all along. You can't really blame them, considering if you consider their own personal circumstances. Mind you, I'm just coming from the financial point of view. There are a lot of other things, and I'm not going to say things like religion, I'm not going to say things like culture or tradition, because these are opinion-based things. I'm talking about factors that can affect the person that is usually out of their what do they call it, out of their control, right? So this can be something like you go to work every day from Monday to Friday. You leave your house by 6 in the morning to start work by 8, or let's say you leave your house by 7 to start work by 8. Every single day you stop work by 5, get home, stop work by 4, get home by 5, and so all you want to do is just rest. And so if you feel a slight way, you feel a headache coming on, you quickly self-medicate because you have to go to work the next day, right? So there are situations like this that could happen to everyday Nigerians, and it is in no way any fault of theirs. And so this is one of the reasons why I say we can't get on a high horse. Now let's switch over to the positive part, because we always end the video on that note. Let's switch over to what we can do, right? This is why I will encourage NGOs that are, especially health related NGOs that come into Nigeria and help with one particular thing or the other. I always actively encourage these things because they often provide the service for free. They help with like certain groups of people. They target certain groups of people that are likely to have this particular illness, right? And they go into that particular circle and they treat it. They create awareness about certain illnesses. So encouraging them, like if you know of an NGO that does that, share it, because I found that there were like 2 or 3 points in my life where a certain kind of medical aid was needed to be given to me or a friend or somebody else that I know, and it was an NGO that provided that aid, and they did it for completely free, and it was a new and beautiful experience to have with regards to that whole situation. So that is the one solution I will give for this particular video, and that is where I'll end it for this one. Again, this is the There I Said It channel. If you enjoyed this or found it useful, If you found this useful, please do like and subscribe to the channel. And let me know what you think in the comments. If you have a contrary opinion, if you have an opinion to support or add to anything I said, please do let me know. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for staying.